Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about strikes. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, how many strikes or snafus do you get before you get fired? Well, that's very, very subjective. That depends extremely. That all comes down to your employer and the nature of the strikes. That's the short answer. Pretty much what's gonna determine if you get fired or not, or how many mistakes that you are allowed, it just comes down to the complexity and the frequency, like how big is the fuck up that you did, and how often do you do them, and then the personal opinions of your coworkers and the boss that you work for. I mean, and as an example, if you, let's say for the sake of argument that you work in the fast food industry or you work as a clerk somewhere and you're hourly basically, a good rule of thumb is that you have 3 times within a month. That depends on the company, of course, but usually you have 3 times to say no when they call you in and want someone to take a shift. If you say no more than 3 times within a month, odds are that they're just going to bump you down the list, and next time you're not going to be the first caller or the first call on the list, but rather maybe the second or the third and so forth. And finally, they won't actually start calling you up because you're always saying no. You can think of that as a similar sort of thing when it comes to software development. It's just a little bit more elaborate, because it's not like if you make 2 or 3 mistakes or some magical number, then you're going to get fired. It comes down to what can I read into the mistakes that you are making, and what are my personal opinions as your manager or your boss or your coworker. As an example, if you have an individual who is consistently, some people get fired for deleting the production database, like some really big snafu somewhere, something extraordinary, and then you just have that one time to do that, and then you might actually get fired immediately. May not happen, but can happen. But then you have the other part, which is that if you're consistently creating these small issues over and over and over, let's say for the sake of argument that you are releasing something small, like you're pretty much fresh off the boat and you're working on smaller features, but every time you release a feature, there's some issue. In, say, front end, it would be, let's say that you can't really get things to be responsive, or things are misaligned when they go out into production. You don't do proper testing or things like that, and all of a sudden the UI breaks, etc., etc. These tiny little things that can happen, if they are frequently happening, pretty much every time you release something, that is definitely something that is going to start getting noticed. So that's part of that pressure I've talked to you guys about before. As a software developer, you are in a constant state of quite a lot of people are. You are in a constant state of performance anxiety until you can reach such a skill level where you don't really make all that many mistakes. Like, everybody makes mistakes. You're always going to make mistakes, but you will reduce them down to the bare minimum, hopefully. But for most programmers, this pressure is there all the time. That's the beauty. That's the problem with this. This is, if in a more humanitarian or social environment, you might fix problems or mistakes in whatever you do by being nice to your customer and saying the right things and making some arrangement, right? In programming, that's not possible. It's either correct or it's incorrect. It's binary. It's like mathematics. You're either right or you're wrong. There is no ambiguity about it, and that is gonna cause quite a lot of pressure. So what I want you to take away from this is that there is no magical number for how many times you can mess something up at your place of work. It comes down to how severe are the problems that you are causing, how often are they happening, and the personal value system of your manager. So what you should read into that is that it is important for you to not cause all these small problems. Take the time to really respect your work and make sure that it works. Do proper testing, make sure that you have a checklist or something to make sure that you don't forget anything. Do code reviews. all these small quality things that will keep you from releasing things that are sort of broken. They may not crash the whole system, but you should be able to avoid having these tiny little issues. The second thing is that you could have a severe problem, like you can have these problems that causes severe issues within the system. These things are not just on you, but it's on the entire company to make sure that you have rollback options and you have things like recovery systems or things of this nature, so that you can actually save your system from a catastrophic failure of some sort, when ideally as quickly as possible. So that's a joint responsibility. And lastly, the people around you are the people who determine how, it's from their perspective, if you're good at what you do or if you're bad at what you do. Like, you can feel however you want about yourself, but at the end of the day, it's your coworkers, your peers, who will determine if you stay employed at that company for the most part, your manager and so forth. So having a good relationship to these people and being transparent and open and trying your best all the time to improve and really show that you're there to learn, you're there to be the best that you can be and to help out. These things do actually matter in terms of how many strikes you get before you're out the door. Have a great day.